Hello, I am Charlene of the Rainbow Frequency and I'm going live. And I am here to give you some food for thought. And if you'd like, I am happy to pull a card for you, whatever. I'm trying to build community and give something back to help people because we just went through a full moon and it has been a doozy. The last couple of weeks have been particularly and I talk to people worldwide and it's not just me. It's everyone I talk to in one way or another is going through dealing with their lives, perhaps going through old wounds so that they can fully look at them and see what is still needed to help them work through that so that you can leave it in the past to make room for new growth in the future. A lot of people I know, including myself, have really had to sit with their inner child. And I'm saying hi to everybody, by the way. And thank you for being here very much. I truly appreciate you. Really sitting with their inner child. If you're cognizant and trying to work through your stuff, these are the people I'm speaking to. There are other people who are just waking up to starting this process. So, keep that in mind and perhaps put into the back of your mind that there are different heats in a race. It's not a race, but we're all in this marathon. We're in it to win it, right? So there are the people who can go through the things a little bit beforehand so that they can help guide the next heat or wave to do so. That's what teachers and guides are for, right? It's you don't do it for them, you teach them how to fish. That kind of thought. So yeah, if anyone wants me to pull a card, I should have been prepared, but open my drawer full of delightful things. Or if you just want to talk, questions, by all means, I'm trying to see what you all are saying even with these giant glasses, it's still hard to see. But I'm open to chat. But while I wait, I will babble to give you the food for thought that's been in here and what I can offer to help you not feel like you're losing it. Because the planets, the Schumann resonance, the solar explosions and flares that we've been having are not to alarm you, but these, to me, are what I consider to be a part of those light codes and information that we are processing. Plants grow by the help of the moon and the sun, both of which help the process. So we're all mediums. We're all not so much different than a plant for what we need. So just consider that. And the other day, or actually in the last couple of years, I would actually say, I have been in this like whinging and whining about feeling like I was hormonally imbalanced. And I was talking to my friend who's an acupuncturist. And in that conversation, I was like, I'm not hormonally imbalanced. I'm just somewhere new. I am like clockwork, my cycle is now every 3 weeks, which is really maddening. And sure, I have different body, not to get too gross and intimate, right? But I have different things going on than when I was younger. And they're perhaps annoying at times, but I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. So instead of being so angry and annoyed and thinking there's something wrong, Exhale. Okay. So this is what it is like to be the mother in this energy. And again, I'm not trying to be overly in the genders, but like, you know, you're growing, you're changing, it's something new. It's not always, woe is me. You know, it doesn't have to be. You know, it's that perspective. It's just like, oh, well, I am like clockwork. Now, how do I work with this new terrain? And instead of getting so angry at it, which is resistance, right? How do I accommodate to best self-care, best have new boundaries? I mean, because you even need boundaries with your hormones, right? Damn straight. Because, yeah, there are times when you're like, whoa, as an adult, if you have this ability to like stop yourself and like, and maybe this is that inner dialogue that I talk about where, hold up, in my head, I will be outwardly sometimes losing my you know what with my teenage son or husband because, you know, our families are a part of our learning ground. Or is that a word that I should say that as? But that it's kind of where we put it into practice, right? And it's interesting. It's very interesting, right? You're like, who's mirroring whom? You know, there are times when I'm like, you're supposed to go with the flow. But then if you're not just yourself, you're like, well, whose flow? Like there's a whole lot of flowing going on. You know, I have my flow, I have the universe's flow, I have my son's flow, I have, you know, like all this flowing. And again, it's just the like, sometimes you just have to stop, breathe, take into consideration what is real, what isn't real, what am I like being activated or triggered by that maybe, why is it that I am responding in this way? You know, as an adult, it's a little bit easier. With teenagers, you have to remind yourself, or even children or anyone really, it doesn't matter what their age is, they might not have had the life lessons to get to that point. So sometimes that's where that patience comes in with other people because you're like, remember, they're on their own journey. They're learning their own things. we're all having our own moments and own processing through the layers and figuring out where the holy hell we are now. You know, no matter where you are in your actual age range. I mean, anyway. And we're all different, right? Like I'm 44 and going through the early stages of menopause, and that's not necessarily normal, or not normal. We'll take away that word. Redact. It's not within the average range of this, but we're all different, you know, and there are people who are older that are like, oh, you're too young for that. No, I'm not. You know, it is what it is. And you do have to work through the different feelings within that. You can't just like, oh, okay, cerebrally, I understand. Let's move on. No, you have to process the emotions, you know, just because it is what it is. It might make you sad. It might make you angry. It might do a lot of things. And, you know, our emotions are not rational. You know, like we have different bodies, different parts to ourselves for a reason. And a lot of times we tend to very much in this time and place focus on the one parts of ourselves, like and disregard the spiritual, perhaps the emotional. A lot of people will just shove those emotions on out and just power through. Like, there are a lot of people who just put themselves straight into their work. They just do what they need to do and they're focused on the task, sometimes maybe white knuckling their way through and not really breathing, right? And that catches up with you. It causes dis-ease. It's that I was talking with a friend who does healing touch, and she articulated to me in her practice, which makes sense. Like, there's the issue up here in the spiritual, and then it trickles on down. And if you haven't paid attention, then it comes up in your physical. I personally, in my work, really want to dig into the emotions because, I recognize that a lot of physical issues that we have, I want to help you dig into the emotional part so that we can process it, whether it's through cards or shamanic journey, guided meditation, whatever. And that's what I'm good at. I really like talking to people and helping them feel good. I was a hairstylist for 20 years. I wanted them to feel empowered inside and out and feel comfortable in their own skin and not fight their hair. Like, you have what you have. Now let's make it rock. That kind of attitude. I don't want to make you look like someone else. I really struggled within the beauty industry because I want you to be you. That's the part. Like, I want you to be organically, beautifully who you are and happy about it. Because isn't that the name of the game? Like, life, what are you here for? To enjoy it, to get to know yourself and what you're working with and make the best of it. And it's hard. Oh, it's hard. Like, we came here to have an experience. And really, I do believe, and I get mad at myself, my higher self, where, like, yeah, I came here to have this experience. I'm finding it very challenging. The world, people annoy the ever-loving hell out of me. I don't like war of any kind. I have compassion for people everywhere, and it hurts to see blanket statements being said about groups of people when it isn't their fault necessarily what's going on at large. And it's the compassion building and love building. And right now, in the midst of all this dire woe, I hate this, I don't want to be here anymore, I have to remind myself that in this time, what is also happening is that we're no longer really our own cultures as much, which is important to hold on to our history and culture and who we are and honor our ancestors and not let that stuff go. That part is important. However, the positive spin on this too is that we are becoming more and more aware of how we're connected and how we're not separate and we are all one. I mean, because in my heart, I look at anthropology and spirituality hand in hand, and we have been evolving our consciousness over all of this time, to me, with great purpose. There are a lot of people out there that will look at it half empty and like we're all destined to corruption and blah. But no, nope, holding my vision. We are not. We are going to, more and more of us have that moving towards enlightenment and compassion and heart space and realizing that we want balance and that this, stop vilifying all of it, right? Like some of it's awful. It truly is. But we are moving forward in ways where I'd like to see more green spaces out in the world, since we're not necessarily going back. Blessings to all of you too. We're not going back to how we used to work. We're not necessarily going back to the same office space or buildings or how it was. So I do foresee, perhaps in some instances, that creating more open space to be utilized, and I see us moving more and more through this past few years to being interested en masse in being outside. Keep that up. Yes, we need sun. We need fresh air. We need to be in the elements. Like I started herbology studies wanting to work internally with my plants, and then I got caught up in just enjoying being with the plants, and to me, since I'm an energy worker, just sitting with them in their energy can be enough for me, but I do make teas and different things with them too, and put them in my food. And, again, it's all the bodies. We try to pay attention to working with everything you've got instead of burning out one part. And recently I made a little short video of, I feel like I've been through so many shifts. I burned out my clutch or worn out my clutch. But you haven't. You're just shutting that clutch, that skin, and moving on. All right. That was what I had to say. All right. Anyone in particular want a card? I'm going to pull a collective card. And again, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And if you want to chime in, chime away. The box. Yes. We are breaking out of our boxes, like, why on earth do we feel the need to typecast ourselves, right? Like that's something growing up. I always, with actors and actresses, I had a hard time with. I'm like, why on earth would you ever want to limit yourself with what you could do by choosing just one type of role? And I'm not saying like in an inauthentic way, right? I'm saying like, see how much is in this box? And sorry, I'm doing two screens. There's a whole lot. And then within it, in the center, is a whole cosmos. Woo! A whole universe of dazzling things, elements, the earth. When we think of the earth, we think of it being a grounding element. But really, it's a whole kit and caboodle. Like the earth is an ecosystem that holds the water, the air, and the fire all together. So don't just choose one. Yeah, and it is that waiting sometimes and putting it all together and that divine timing and being patient, because it's one step at a time, especially when you're healing, Ryan. It's you can't, sometimes the universe helps us. And Sarah Gold, I will get you a card. One moment. Sometimes we get frustrated because we want to power through and get there faster, but the universe is doling it out for our highest good. And even I sometimes have to remind myself I'm not smarter than the highest powers up there. I'm not. So sometimes just cool your jets, hot rod, and let it slowly, step by step, Knight of Pentacles style come together. Sarah, would you like a traditional tarot card, or would you like me to pull you an oracle card? And now, Ryan, I have the song Step by Step, Heart to Heart. But we're not going to all fall down, unless it is to ground on the earth in an earthing style. You know what I mean? Like, we could all fall down in a field together of wildflowers and soak up the sun, the moon, the stars, and all the elements. Like, I highly suggest, if you're feeling like, go lie down on the earth somewhere if you can, or next to it, like sit up against a tree, like do that. There's a reason Buddha did it. Just saying. Tarot. Nope. Okay. I was going to pull you one deck, and then the cats have spoken, Sarah. The cats want you. I hope you like cats. All right. You can either in your mind have a question of your own, or we can just ask what you need to know for your highest good right now. I'm just going to let you do that for yourself. I like to make everything a choose your own adventure. While I'm really good at being bossy, I don't like it. You know, I want it to be a collaboration. All right, you got Judgment. And, you know, there's 6 cats on this card. All of you guys. Fives are usually that conflict, the challenge that's really good because it's the growing stage. And then 6 is that like moving forward and a compassion, loving energy, and that builds. You know, because again, tarot is a progression, a building, working through stages. It's a journey. Everything is. And you got it in reverse. And to me, that is speaking of you really sitting with yourself and perhaps releasing some of the judgments that you didn't need to hold for yourself. Perhaps you just said a lot of changes for you right now. You know, deciding to move away from things that didn't feel good anymore. You know, that all of these things are hard, and we have to work through grieving some of it. So when I see this Judgment in reverse, it's that, and a lot of us collectively, this applies too. We've been sitting with ourselves. What do we want to keep? What do we need to let go of? What can we work to adapt a bit? And where have I picked up mindsets or patterns, behaviors, whether it be from family or whatnot? You know, you're not in a vacuum. You know, we're around other people, and it can have its effects, and we can pick up false narratives sometimes, or beliefs about ourselves that we then have to release that judgment. Many different ways of this. So basically, long story short, I do see you having released some of the things inwardly that you need to, and that will then outwardly start to bring in the new positive things to work with. And again, like, it's all choice. We all have free will. It's when the new comes in, try to have the open eyes of like, the universe is working with me. How do I best take this and make some magic with it, you know? And like, just because it doesn't show up how we expect it to, don't get frustrated, right? Like, okay, how do I now turn this opportunity perhaps into how I want it to work with me, as opposed to, and this isn't necessarily just for Sarah, but instead of being in the woe victim kind of like, life is working against me, and I feel like Sarah's really worked through a lot of that mentality. Like, she's let go of, it's not working against me. I'm working with the universe to move forward for myself as myself, So we need to really be present in that mindset. And a lot of times the journey is this labyrinth-like experience. Oh, good, Sarah. It is this labyrinth. The symbol of the labyrinth has been used around the world. I know I've said this before, but it's in, out, back again. And you learn, then you have to apply it. You learn, and then you have to apply it. And sometimes we feel like we're being tested, but we are, in not a negative sense. It's okay. You've learned a new skill set. You've learned a new whatever. Now, how do you learn to work with it? It's like in gardening, per se, or for instance, where perhaps you get a new tool and you don't really know exactly how to use it. You see how it's done, and then you got to get comfortable with it and get used to putting that into practice. And then perhaps after that mastery, you might get something else in your tool set to expound upon or build upon building up your tools, building up your skills, building up to the culmination of how it can then later really go well together. A lot of us, I think, too, when you're younger, or how do I want to say this? Because I don't want to ostracize my younger audience per se, but at the same time, like, there are times to move on from things. There are times to like completely flip a script and be like, nope, not doing that anymore. I'm out. And there are times to where you sit, you realize, okay, I am craving change. I want to do something new. Perhaps don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's saying, it's learning how to take elements of the one part of you and blend it in temperance style so that you can, and yes, sometimes you choose not to use an ingredient in the pantry. You might not want licorice all the time, but anyway, what I'm saying though is, it's learning how to fuse it all together, not truncate yourself, not cut a part of yourself off that's really a good part of yourself just because you want change. Like I saw it forever with hair, where people are craving change. Myself, like, I know from my past going through divorce, the more I cut my hair, like on my own, myself in the bathroom, the more I am feeling the need for control outwardly. And it's the only place I could get it. So my poor bangs and, different stuff, or people will come in and they're like, cut it all off. And I'm like, okay, now do you really want a big change? because sometimes that's a really good cathartic thing to do. Or is it somewhere else that you really want this change and you might regret taking it out on your hair? You know, you have to, as a hairstylist, really learn how to read people. You know, luckily for me, being an intuitive empath, like, I can feel what you're feeling. You can tell me you're not feeling it. You know, like my poor son, I'm like, sure. Don't believe you. I can feel it, you know. But I also have to be polite and not always call him on the carpet, because if he doesn't want to, if he's not ready to acknowledge it, like, I can't be a jerk and be like, you're gonna feel it. I know you're feeling it. You know, like, it's that balance, people, you know. And again, learning myself how to put all of this into practice in a nice way, and recognize, especially with my family, like, they didn't come to me and pay me for it. They're not asking always for it. So sometimes I need to back off. I don't know if that helps some of you. I never know exactly why I babble the things I do. And then later people will come out and tell me, like, oh my God, I really needed you to hear that. I'm like, oh, good. Because I'm just the conduit. I just will babble it out and kind of feel I'm on the right path, but it's yours. It's not mine. Sometimes it's mine and ours, both of us, but recovery. This is a chakra card. I'm going to give Instagram and YouTube. All right, so, and purple would be our third eye chakra in this deck. We are recovering collectively, you know, in varying ways, you know, because it is personal, individual, but also collective, you know. And we've been too caught up in certain parts of ourselves, and a lot of us en masse have moved away from our intuitive sides, acknowledging it, crediting it, and it created an imbalance. And now, currently, we're recovering from that. You see people more and more talking about their intuitive abilities in a more commonplace way, which is beautiful. You know, we're starting to have words like HSP, highly sensitive person, which to me is another way of articulating an empathetic person. And, you know, we're starting to realize empathy isn't just human to human, right? Like, objects and places can hold memory. Scientifically speaking, this is known. So that is to say that we are affected by the cosmos, objects, people, places, things, whether you want to believe it or not. Like, you go into a place sometimes and you're like, oh, I don't like the energy here. You said it! You said it! You don't like the energy here, because we can feel the energy. We have the ability, as this walking water bag, to be a medium, to be empathetic and read and feel our environments. It's true. It is true. And more people are starting to realize that and tap in to all of the parts of their brains. You know, we have previously said, and I've said this many times, that we have not been using all of our brains. Well, I think people out there, if their brains had been studied, might have hit those bells, because they were, you know, like, the parts of our brains that we en masse haven't been using have been that inner knowing, third eye, intuitive, you know, instead of shunning the unknown, embracing the fact, you know, more and more in the psychiatric world and all of, they're starting to realize they shouldn't have shoved people in boxes, because those labels were just dumping grounds to put the unknown. You know, whether we're speaking of schizophrenia, uh, Asperger's, I'm losing my brain. Anyway, all the peoples out there that get shoved into boxes because we don't know what to do with you, we're moving more and more to recognizing that there are people who are highly sensitive. It's not necessarily something wrong with them. We don't need to shove them in an asylum or sanitarium or whatnot. Like, and I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that have mental disorders that need to be addressed. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is we're starting to get down to the nuances of what it is going on within a person. So a lot of times I talk to people and I'm like, do you really, really feel that you are inwardly anxious? Or is it a symptom of being an empath and you don't know what to do with it? A lot of times the person will say, you're right, it's not me. I kind of knew it wasn't me, but I didn't, like, how do I label this? What is this? You know, and if we don't know, we vilify, right? Going back to what I was saying earlier. So we're recovering, we're starting to learn not to necessarily vilify what's going on within ourselves. You know, my whole life when you hear like, you know, like we all talk to ourselves. It's when they talk back that it's a problem. I better not tell anyone that they talk back to me. Like, it's a conversation in here. You know, that's that inner dialogue of that connection to spirit that was organic, that made me get scared and didn't want anyone to know. And then I'm like, wait a second, that's a beautiful thing. You know, like I wasn't trained necessarily to get there. I luckily, because of perhaps the environment I was in, innately picked up my coping mechanisms to get myself through. You know, like sometimes I've noticed with people who grow up in families or in environments that are not always the easiest, healthiest, however you want to quantify that, sometimes you wind up tapping into parts of yourself and not recognizing that you're doing it because it was for survival. You know, there are a lot of people I meet where I'm like, you don't know what you're doing, but let me, as a spiritual teacher of sorts, let me tell you what I witness you as the mirror, as the mouthpiece to tell you what's going on. This is what's happening. This is why you're feeling that way. Now let's learn how to work with it. So we're in that stage. So if you're feeling this way, find someone if you need to. Some people can do all this on their own because that's the sort of person they are. Some people need a guide, a teacher, someone to hold their hand and help them. You know, so however it is that you work best, help yourself. You know, there's so much information available now when previously a lot of stuff was kept private or was hard to access. Now, you know, make sure that you're using your discernment, check your sources. There's a lot of garbage out there too. There are a lot of people out there trying to Pied Piper you into their clutches because they want your money. You know, there's always, you have to have your discernment. But at the same time, intuition is real. Like we're all empathetic if we choose to be. It's a matter of whether or not you're open to receiving or if you want to shut yourself in a knot. But anywho, anyone else want a card? Otherwise, I'm going to sign off. Until next time, I just wanted to come on and give you guys a little bit of love and give you the food for thought that, these topics ruminate in my brain, and I know that they're important, especially when I'm having the same conversation over and over with people, and it's a common theme of what people need to hear and realize. And so that's why I do this. I come out here. One oracle card, Anna. Okay. Because it's that realization of, like, I see how it is that people are feeling, and that it's for me, when I realize that it's a universal, again, to varying degrees, we all experience things our own way, but when I realize there's a commonality to it, to me, that always helps me. So that's where, I like to come on these lives, and I'm like, all right, guys, this is what it's kind of feeling like, because I feel like a little bit of a barometer, and in a loving way, I want to nurture you and help you power through. You have the potential. All right, so Anna, you got Zora Neale Hurston story. Have the glare. Although it's a beautiful shadow. Okay, which goes with this card. Anyway, so, you might look at this perhaps and have a negative response. But to me, I absolutely love this card. It's beautiful. And let me unpack it for you. Okay, first of all, and I'll show Instagram too, the kid gloves are off. You were working through your shadow work. You were digging deep into that void of self where it's that womb space. It's that creativity. It's where we have to go to heal those old wounds, and have that death of self to then, again, really get down to the nitty-gritty of who we are, what we are, not other people's stories or belief systems. It's scary. It's hard. It's not for the faint of heart to do this healing work. It really isn't. You have to choose to get down and dirty, howl, cry. I have cried more tears in my healing journey than I could have ever thought was possible. And I feel like I could have made a new ocean. But crying is really, really good. It's wonderful. It's a beautiful sign that healing is taking place. So don't vilify those tears. I'm just saying. You have this devil, you have a ghost, you have the rabbit. I don't mean to offend, but originally, so they say, the devil was an advisor to God. And, in some cultures, our Christian devil could be considered Green Man or the horned god, So, we, different cultures sometimes will vilify other people's deities. There's that. Where I'm going with this is, sometimes the devil is there to test, challenge you, to make the right decision. Perhaps. It's just like, our ego. And we will vilify a lot of times our ego when, like, to me, it's that Peter Pan didn't like being without their shadow. They needed to be in balance. So it's just that you have the spirit. So we could consider this the angel and the devil, and that is something where it's your higher consciousness and then the like challenging, like going together in order to really power you through thinking it through to making that decision. The rabbit could be considered that fertility goddess energy, powering through, working through these things. It's a cycle, and I'm reversed, but going clockwork. So it's that healing spiral. Then you have, I hope I pronounced this right, the grease bag sort of elements down here. And that's, to me, again, like sometimes we are our own jailers. We can be our own toxic environment. I don't necessarily mean this specifically to you, Anna. No offense. I don't always love saying the things I have to say to people. But notice how this bottle has been spilled. They realize they don't want to do this anymore. They don't want to keep it in this bottle. They're letting it out, going with the flow. Sometimes we have to take the poison and turn it into nectar. In an alchemical transmutation sort of process. Oh, I'm glad, Anna. Yay. And it's that, again, learning to work with our intuition and all of that which we have available to us. For me, oh, hi, Scylla. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't say hi like that to everyone. I'm sorry. But I never see Scylla in my lives because she's Tasmanian and I'm a Virginian. Anyway. Yay! Woo! And I love everyone. Sorry. Anyway. What the hell is that? Oh! That was a good happy accident. Thank you, Scylla. There's a little house, in this oil slick. And I love skulls. I mean, you're going to be a shaman when, as a little girl, you're at Disneyland and the skull and the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you're like, yes, oh my God, this is it. I love this. Wow, weird. Not the average little girl. So what this is saying to me is you are going through that death of self to really come home to your true self. And a lot of us are. Let me show you the little house. And Instagram has better lighting. Sorry. I can't control everything. I really can't. I've had to let go of that one for sure. We're coming home to ourselves, and it's a scary process. It really can be. It doesn't have to be, but when you're facing those demons and healing those wounds, whew, it's something. So anyway, Scylla, do you want anything before, because you came in at the tail end, and I gotta get ready for work, man. But Scylla, tell me. I want to give you something. Oh, maybe I won't even wait. I'm gonna give you what I want to give you. Ha ha ha. See what being my friend is really like? But you can tell me, Scylla, if you want to. Oh. The crane. I love a damn crane. I mean, what don't I love? There's not much. The Keyword is surrender. Let go of limiting beliefs. Be as expansive in your thoughts as your soul is. Oh, the light. I'll send you a picture of it. Oh, it's so pretty. There it is. There you go. YouTube. It is. And Scylla says, oh, it's a lovely card. And it is. It is a lovely card. And I absolutely adore the fact that there are all these damn birds on the card. She's been a bird savior for the last several months. I mean, amongst all the other animals. I mean, this woman's soul is as good as it gets. I mean, I think you all have that. I really do. If you choose to. It's a choice. It's all a choice. So, going once, going twice. Anything else before I bid you adieu? I give the whole world at large. I mean, how could anyone pick and choose where to focus? Who needs love? We all need it. Everywhere. Everywhere. Well then, on that note, I will see you next time. I am available should you want to work with me one-on-one. I really love one-on-one because we all learn differently. So I don't really... I like doing collectives, but individual-based engagement is my favorite. So if you'd like to work with me, I will provide you, well, on Instagram, go to my bio, you can get me. You can find me. I'm right here behind this door. And then YouTube, again, I believe it's in my bio. I will put it in the description box below, but I do energy work in many different ways. Card reading is a shamanic journey unto itself. So whether you want to be actively participating verbally or lying back, receiving a guided meditation. In Richmond, Virginia, I do see people in person. If I don't know you, I'd like to get to know you before we meet in person, perhaps, you know. But let's get together. Yeah. Have a great one. Best wishes, all the love. Be well holistically. And we are here experiencing all of what we're experiencing to help us evolve and grow. So know that you are here in this really unique time to do some really good work. So now dig into what it is. See you next time.